You found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. The Chicago Bulls get no luck at the draft lottery at all. We will be picking number 11. We'll also be talking about Julian Phillips being fully cleared and recovered from his injury during the season. And lastly, should the Bulls prioritize a position or best player available when they do make their draft selection in the 2024 NBA draft? We're going to talk about all and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts.
Separate channels, right? Separate channels.
Two different. You got to make sure, Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for first deposit match up to $100. Pat, last episode we talked about, could the Bulls get a little draft lottery luck? And I don't know why we had that conversation, because of course not.
It happens.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I fully expected us to be sitting at 11. I'm not shocked that the draft went the way it did. You know what it is, though? It's like when you're slated to go that low, the lottery almost means nothing. And not that it's not a high pick. You're still in the lottery, but like, when it's like you're probably going to end up with the bottom of the 3 picks called, it's just like, all right, here we go, and it's over. All right, great talk, guys. Appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? Like, there was no excitement in that lottery. Julian Phillips was there. We still have no idea who the heck was there for the Spurs. You know what I mean? Like, it was I'm glad they do the lottery how they do it. I'm not gonna lie. It's like it's gonna happen right before a game. We don't really care. Like, let's get up out of here. But yeah, no luck, and what sucks about it is the team that gets the number 1 overall pick, basically, if you were just one spot below them, the Chicago Bulls would now have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, it's lottery luck, and I think either way, the Bulls, we just aren't lucky, and that's just what it comes down to. And the thing with this, though, is that even with us being at number 11, and we'll talk about it, we're going to cover specific prospects over this time and whatever. The way that this draft is that, the top 2 players in the draft right now potentially have the best chance to really turn around a franchise, things like that. But almost everybody from 4 down to about 18 are all generally about the same levels. You look at their potential, right? Their ceiling. And, that's why you see the wild variations between like a player that me and you are going to talk about in the future. We talked about a little bit last episode, a player like Cody Williams, who could go as early as number 2 and as low as like number 12 or 13. Like, it's wild swings all up and down this draft. So, it comes down to one thing still with the Bulls team, and that's the most important thing. Their scouting team. How do they evaluate this talent is the most important thing in all this, because even if the Bulls pick number 1, number 2, if their player evaluation part of it sucks, I mean, we would have traded LaMarcus Aldridge for Tyrese Thomas. It's not like we haven't done some stuff like that.
and I think that's really what it comes down to when you look at this, right? And me and you have both talked about, AK's deficiencies with evaluating players and things like that. And it's the biggest concern here, right? We look around and you look at Patrick Williams, and then you see Tyrese Maxey, you see Tyrese Halliburton, you see Devin Vassell, and you go, the most egregious one to me is Devin Vassell. To this day, it's like you had to watch Devin Vassell to watch Patrick Williams. And me sitting on my couch watching Devin Vassell could have told you that Devin Vassell was the better player of the 2 and definitely had the higher ceiling. But it's just I think what makes it tough is that you're going into this 11th pick with not a lot of trust in your front office. That makes this worse. That makes your offseason feel like, that you're not to say that you're in a hopeless spot, but not that you're sitting here operating from a position of power, because we haven't seen the Bulls go out there and be successful with their first round picks. Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, those are guys that you look at and you say, yeah, they're in the rotation, but there are guys that legitimately could be stars that have been taken after them. Now, P. Will's at the point where you got stars taken after him, but Dalen Terry, you know, me and you both loved Walker Kessler coming out. And again, we're here on YouTube going, oh, look at this dude. He looks really good, looks really talented, fits every need you need. You took a 6'7" point forward that like was really just a point forward because he ran a lot of pick and roll with Ben Mathurin, who's the better player.
Wait, he was on. I forgot he was on that team with Ben Mathurin.
Yeah, that was him and Ben Mathurin.
Forgot about that.
That man got to the NBA because of Ben Mathurin passes. Which,
bro, the thing is that, you know, and we both had Walker Kessler. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was like number one on both our boards that year, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Remember, I said he was white Jaren Jackson Jr. Everybody wanted to compare him. Who's the white dude they wanted to compare him to? And I was like, yeah, that's a horrible comparison just because he's white.
It was. Dang it, who was it?
It wasn't Steven Adams. It was it Hartenstein or was it who else is in New York?
Even that, you see how Hartenstein's balling out. Well, not the last two games, the Knicks been getting handled. But yeah, I mean, like people just, I get it. Like, and you know, sometimes when you're doing this draft analysis, you can either talk yourself into or out of players by really, you know, going over their strengths or focusing too much on strengths or too much on negatives. And, you know, I understand that draft analysis is not as easy. It's not as easy as what we make it here look at, because you also have to look at, all right, how do they fit with the team that you currently have? Yes. Or are you changing some things to make them fit? Which is something that we don't necessarily know what the front office mindset is on some of these players. But there are some players that I'm still really excited about. And I know people are going to say, well, this is a weaker draft. I think people have taken now. This is why I hate when people don't take the context of what's said. When people call this a weak draft, they mean as far as superstar talent. There aren't a whole lot of players that project right now to be superstars in this draft. But that does not mean there aren't some damn good players that could be 8-10-year pros in this league and maybe even make a couple of all-star games. So
no, for sure. And that's where the player evaluation comes in. Listen, you don't have to get all the picks right. You just have to get your pick right. And that's the biggest thing that the Bulls need to focus on here. I mean, like, this is say what it is. I mean, like, or call it with the draft, whatever you want to call it. You've got a top 15 pick. That's got to hit. It's got to hit. The reason that guard packs are no longer in place is because they had 7 3 times and none of them hit. Now,
one of them
Kobe White kind of hitting a little bit now. Yeah, I mean, I guess realistically, Larry Markkinen also hit, but on the third team from the Bulls, right? But you got to hit on top 15 picks, whether they're role players, whether they're really good players, whether they're stars. Hopefully they're super, but you've got to hit on it. These are. The Bulls have an opportunity, and I get it. It is a different kind of draft. That maybe you don't sit there and you see stars from 1 to 32, but a top 11 pick, you can't tell me there's nobody in this draft. I don't see this as a draft. What was it? Was it the Anthony Bennett draft, where it was just like everybody you went through, you were just kind of like, yeah, there was no hope in it. Or was it Nerlens Noel? Either Anthony Bennett or Nerlens Noel. One of those drafts where you just went through it and you were like, ugh. I mean, we got to take a player.
Well, we got to take somebody. Who we're going to take?
Legally, we have to take a player. Like, nobody's trading for these picks. But yeah, like, just go out there and find the guy that fits here. Find the guy that makes sense here. And I think there's some names that do make sense here. Do I think that they'll be superstars? Do I think you build your franchise around them? Probably not. But I mean, listen, there's probably a lot of people that didn't think they'd be building their franchise around Tyrese Halliburton, and the Pacers are the ones benefiting off that.
That's true as well. Yeah, I mean, but the evaluation portion is the most important part of the draft, right? Like, you look at the draft that Giannis Antetokounmpo was drafted in. He wasn't taken until 15th. None of the players that were taken in the top 5 there, I think, even turned out to be all-stars. Like, you got 2 all-stars in that draft, I believe, that went number 15, if I'm not mistaken, number 27 as well in that draft, because I think that's where Rudy Gobert was drafted at too. So, like, you never know. You just got to do your evaluation.
Giannis is the Anthony Bennett draft, right?
Isn't it? Is it? Hold on.
Giannis, I think, is the Anthony Bennett draft. So who would have been in there? Vic's in there. Vic was an all-star. There's not a lot of actually, I think that's the same draft. Maybe that is the Nerlens Noel draft.
Let's see. That would have been the 2013 draft. So that is the Anthony Bennett draft. So
okay,
top 5 in that draft.
CJ
Anthony Bennett
was in there, I think.
Victor Oladipo, Otto Porter, Cody Zeller, Alex Lynn, Nerlens Noel, number 6 there. Ben McLemore, KCP, Trey Burke, CJ McCollum as your top 10 in that draft.
Jesus. And Michael Carter Williams is your rookie of the year that year, right?
Right. Rookie of the year drafted at number 11.
Michael Carter Williams. That's such a bad draft. He won rookie of the year. Dog. That's pretty bad. I'm trying to think. I think is Gobert in that draft too?
Yeah,
I think
Gobert's
those are the only
number
27
names in that draft.
Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
CJ McCollum, I think, is in there, and then Giannis are the only names that are worth mentioning in that draft.
That's crazy.
Well, KCP.
KCP is a solid role player,
KCP
right?
Solid role player. He should have been taken that high, but solid role player.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, it's hope. Let's see what the Bulls can do in this draft, man. Like I said, they can still pull some talent out of this draft. Let's see if they can muster it up. But before we get into the next topic, and we're going to talk about Julian Phillips being fully recovered from his injury, I want to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You pick more than or less on 2 players or more stats and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, and America's #1 fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDON for first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDON NBA on PrizePicks for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. I was about to say, where's the music at? All right.
They pick when they want to come through.
It does what it wants to. All right, Pat. With that said, man, one of our draft pick of last year, Julian Phillips, is fully recovered. Had a foot injury that kept him out for the remainder of the season. I can't remember. What did he suffer that in January? I believe maybe it was a little bit later than that.
I think you were right, around January.
But I think it's important that he does. Like, this is still very early in hell. The playoffs isn't even over yet. So the fact that he's fully recovered now means that he's going to have a full offseason of training, hopefully working with the player development department, going out his own coaches, whatever that is. I think this is a step in the right direction. How do you feel about Julian Phillips being fully recovered there, Pat?
Listen, I'm glad that he's ready to go. I think that he had a good start to his career. I think he was starting to get some things kind of moving in the right direction. And realistically speaking, he got that season cut short because of the injury, but I think he left a lot of people with a positive vibe based on where he was selected in the draft. Came in, he was unafraid, he was ready to go. But the thing that I loved about Julian Phillips most was he never stopped moving, and he was always cutting, always looking to find a way to get downhill. I think he's a young man that has a lot of talent. And you didn't get to see the full potential of that, both because of playing time and also because of the injury that he's dealt. So I hope that he's able to get back on the court as quickly as possible. I don't know who I'd like to see him work with. I was going to say I'd like to see him get to work with DeMar, but yeah, like that hasn't worked for us well in the past. Maybe like we're going to work with Kobe.
Well, you know what? It hasn't worked well for us in the past for people who aren't ready aggressive on the court. I don't think we've got to worry about aggression with Julian Phillips. So maybe
this is true.
Maybe him learning the other things is probably maybe what he needs a little bit right now.
No, this is true. I think that the one thing about Julian Phillips that does get me excited, though, is that, getting into an offseason where he's really going to get to work with the Bulls shooting coach and really lock down that shot. I think that shot, like taking him back to his high school shot, I think that has really helped him. But again, it was basically right before the season when all of that stuff goes down. He starts working on it. You try to work yourself back into it, but it takes time for that. Having a full off season to really be able to work through that shot, I think that's going to be really big for Julian Phillips, and so I'm excited to see what he's going to come out as next season. And I mean, listen, you hope you found a diamond in the rough. You hope that this is, like we talked about in the first segment. Your draft has not been great, but AK is somebody that has put together teams not with top 10 picks. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Well, I guess Jamal Murray was top 10, I believe. But outside of that, I mean, like, he put together most of that team, that Denver team, with later picks because they were trying to compete. They were trying to stay competitive. They were trying to win. They put a value on winning. And so finding Jokic during a Taco Bell commercial really worked in your favor in the long run. That's what you hope you have here with the Julian Phillips. I'm not putting a ceiling on it. I hope he's Jokic. I mean, like I hope that he's the star that we've been waiting for, and you were able to get him by buying back into the second round.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Julian still has tons of potential, and Julian is one of those players that and it looks like he went down actually in March. I didn't realize that he played up until. Why did it feel like we were missing Julian Phillips for like 2 months?
Because they stopped playing him.
I mean, he was playing in March. He played March 13th, 11 minutes. March 11, 28 minutes. But yeah, I mean, Julian's 20 years old. He'll be 21 right at the start of the season. There's still rookies coming into the league younger than he is, so he still has more than enough time to round out his game, and we'll see. And like you said, getting back to that high school shot, if his 3-point shot would have been what it was in high school, in college, he would have been a lottery pick. So, that doesn't mean necessarily that his career is actually he's gonna be a star, because there are a lot of picks that fell every year. But I'm just saying his draft status would have been a lot higher had they not tweaked his 3-point shot. So the Bulls picked him for upside. They didn't necessarily pick him so that he can be this huge contributor last season. So let's see. Hopefully, with an offseason of work, a full offseason of NBA training, because he is now healthy, stuff like that. Let's see how he comes out next season, man.
And the thing that I loved about his game, like I said, right, like he started to get more playing time, but he wasn't looking for shots. He wasn't looking for, okay, I have to get something set up for me to operate. He was just like, let me go out here, let me rebound, put the ball back in, try and get tip dunks, try and get fouled, try and get to the hole, make sure that I'm cutting, make sure that people are finding me if I'm open. You know what I mean? Like the thing that I loved about Julian Phillips is that, and the thing that does show me promise is he was just whatever the team needed him to be. You know what I mean? Like he was just, okay, I have to find a way to make sure that I'm being active when I'm on the court. That's something that Dalen Terry does, but it's very like OC at times, right? Julian Phillips kind of did that a little bit more under control. And listen, there was a time there, I mean, I would say probably that month of maybe February too, but mostly going into March, where it was like, hey, listen, I think Julian may have passed a few people up on the depth chart that we didn't expect him to pass up. And so there was some good flashes right before he ended up going out. You wish he was able to finish the season, but the thing that I wish the most now is just get in the offseason, work on something very specific. If you want to have a role on this team, that's going to be the 3-point shot.
You know who I would love for him to work on? We're talking about working out with people, honestly. Just leave him in Chicago. Try to convince him to stay in Chicago to work with the player development department, but get him talking to Javonte Green. We know Javonte's staying in Chicago all summer.
Hey, listen,
like real talk, bro.
Javonte outside, dog.
Bro,
he is not
summertime shy. He is there, bro. I would not be surprised if Javonte Green just shows up randomly at some people's barbecues, bro. He just walks by, he's like,
hey man, what's going on, baby? Can I get a rib? Can I get a rib, or what's going on? Sir, aren't you the whole NBA player? Like, what are you doing here, dog?
Well, don't worry, man. I have some people drop off some drinks. Don't worry about it. We're 15 bottles of tequila coming right now. Just let me get a couple of ribs.
Drop off? They in the trunk. You know how Javonte get down, bro. Javonte he the wholesale liquor man in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
Hilarious, bro.
You see Javonte.
I can see Javonte. He drives a Escalade, fully kitted out, everything Escalade, probably all black on black everything. And the trunk is just a bunch of coolers. It's chilled ice, Hennessy, everything just right there for you.
Ice and Hennessy. There we go. That's it. Nah, man. Y'all know, man. We love Javonte here. So like, I would love to see him get to working with Javonte as well. But I think they have a lot of the same mannerisms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the thing that I would want him to learn from Javonte, he kind of already does. I guess maybe defensively. That would be where I'd want to see Javonte have an impact on him, because I mean, Javonte can guard 1 through 4 and he's 6'2". If you instill that in Julian Phillips, who's what, 6'7", with a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan.
Phillips 6'10" with a 7'1" wingspan. So
yeah. Hey, that would be something that the Bulls absolutely could utilize. And just listen, we're coming into talking about best position versus best player available. Look at this team, look at what this team needs, and make sure that you're working on that. That's the biggest advice that you can give to these young players. Is it has nothing to do with how are you going to be a star? No, how are you going to get playing time? How are you going to consistently play on the court?
Yeah.
Then you can show your stardom based off of that. But if you get to a point where it's like, we can rely on this dude to be the 3-and-D wing guy, we don't have one. We literally don't have one on the team. Like, maybe we got Patrick Williams, but you know what I mean?
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean.
We'll see.
Hey, man, appreciate y'all tuning in to Show and Love. We got to talk more about this draft. We do have to talk about, is it best player available, or is this going to be a situation where the Bulls have to go with a draft need? But first, we got to tell you guys all about FanDuel. Listen, it's a crazy time over here on FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's right, $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make every playoff shot count. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. Once again, FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, Pat. Last topic of the day, brother. In the draft, should the Bulls go position, which I would think most people are going to agree right now, center's probably the biggest position of need for the Chicago Bulls, or do they go best player available in this draft? This is kind of, we'll get to start talking about specific players and things at that going forward, but how do you feel about that? Position versus best player available?
I think you have to go best player available. The reason that I feel you have to go best player available is because we don't have any. We don't have any stars. We don't have, like, you need to find stars. The NBA is built on stars. There's no team in the playoffs right now that you look at and go, yeah, nice team of role guys. Love the rotation of guards that they have there at center. Like, you've got to find the best player that you can. And listen, yeah, maybe you've missed on a couple of picks, so that puts you a little bit behind the 8 ball, especially missing with Dalen Terry, with Patrick Williams right now. And so you still need to build from the ground up, but you need to take Kobe White kind of in the mindset of, listen, we finally got him to blossom. That could basically be like getting our first round pick showing out this year. I know it's a lot later, but Kobe White's still a very young player. So you take what Kobe White has done and you find the best player available to add to him. And I'm sorry if feelings get hurt, if it is a guard, if it is a Terrence Shannon Jr., if it is a Cody Williams, if it is if somebody gets bumped, somebody gets bumped. Like, we can't be worrying about feelings going into the draft. We can't. There's no position that is filled on this team except maybe the point guard position. It's the only one.
And yeah, and even then, this isn't a deep draft for point guards, but if there was like a star level prospect, you have to figure it out. Because the thing that I think, like center, there's a lot of really good potential centers and forwards in this league. And I would probably think if I had to rank the position groups by position groups, the big is probably the deepest position group in this draft. But I do think that if you do in your evaluation or anything else, see a player that you truly think is going to has the best chance of developing into a star, I can't be mad if it hits. I may be mad initially. I may be for 2 years saying, hey, what did we do here? But then by year 3, I may be saying, all right, bet, let me shut the hell up.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing, right? You need to start finding guys that are going to hit quickly.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a role player. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, nobody's sitting here beating our chests about some of the role players that the Bulls have selected. Nobody's sitting here telling you that Taj Gibson is one of the best power forwards to ever grace the earth. Nobody's sitting here telling you that Luol Deng is a top 5 small forward. But you know what those guys were able to do when they got into the league? They made an impact fairly quickly. When they got into the league, they knew what their role was. They knew what their job was. You've got guys like that in this draft. We're sitting here looking at, and this is how AK is going to do it, right? He's looking for the dude that's 14 years old right now that he can develop out for 6 years. And then finally, all of a sudden, it hits magically. And we're just sitting here like, wow, what a team. Like, no, you need to find guys that can come in and play right now because you don't have enough guys that can play right now. I'm looking at, I went to look up Julian Phillips numbers here, and the last game versus the Knicks popped up. And I'm going to be real with you. Outside of the season, it's a trash roster. During the season, you want to hype your guys up. We got a chance. Here we go. It's the roster. The last game versus the Knicks. Kobe White, Alex Caruso, Dalen Terry, Torrey Craig, Javon Carter, Nikola Vucevic, Javonte Green, DeMar DeRozan. 2 of the dudes are too old. 2 of the dudes are way too young. Torrey Craig, we don't know what the heck he is. Leroy can't find.
We don't know what Torrey Craig is?
I mean, listen, Torrey Craig by the end of the season, like we wanted him to be something, but he was hurt. Yeah, I mean, I guess we know what he is, but he was hurt. Leroy, we trying to get him off the team at all costs. Please. So really what we're left with is Kobe White, Alex Caruso. You ain't got no players. You need to find the best players available.
Oh man, you can't really knock that logic. Like where the Bulls are right now, we need talent. Yeah, we need certain positions too, but overall, we need the talent, right? And so it all depends on it. I get it. It's gonna happen. We're gonna do it. Hell, everyone. I'm not trying to damn anybody for doing it, but as much as we on night 1 of the draft try to act like, oh, who won or lost this draft, you don't sometimes, especially in a draft like this, where the talent's all kind of comparable all the way down to like pick 18. You won't necessarily know for sure, right? Until 1-2 years in, some stuff like that. But here's the thing. Just get somebody that we can't keep being 5 years away from being 5 years away. That's the problem with this team right now.
And yes, 100%. Like that to me is the biggest problem is you're sitting here trying to find developmental pieces that you can build out and you can have the long term with, but you're gonna do what the White Sox do. Like I get it, Jerry owns both teams, but we don't have to follow the same path. You know what would look really good next to Garrett Crochet right now? Dylan Cease, who you just got rid of because you didn't believe you could re-sign him. You know what would have looked really good next to Dylan Cease? Chris Sale, who you got rid of because you didn't believe you could re-sign him because you were always trying to rebuild. You were always trying to get to the next team. You're always trying to get it's not a way to build a team consistently. And especially in the fact that basketball, like if you get a young player that's just a solid role player, that changes your team. That means you have a few that means it's a hit. You literally just have to hit on 3 guys and it can change your entire roster. Yeah. Like it's a 15-guy league. Realistically, 3 dudes on the court are the ones we want with the basketball in their hands. Usually.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, just get it right, man. Just get it right. And if some people are gonna complain and whine about it initially, guess what? If we end up winning games because of the move in the long term, everybody gonna shut the hell up. I historically, I tell you, I was pissed when the Bulls drafted Joakim Noah. Pissed. I can't remember what center. It was another center in that draft I wanted the Bulls to take. Can't remember it off the top of my head. But I had it in my mind they were going to be a better center than Joakim Noah. By the end of Joakim Noah's rookie season, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to shut up going forward, bro. And Joakim Noah is now one of my favorite Bulls of all time. So sometimes you just got to shut up.
The thought process of well, you know what it was? Joe came so wild to the draft, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like Joe was good, but Joe was like super skinny. Man showed up in that dang suit, bro. Like you just was like, bro, what did we just get, bro? Like the Joakim Noah draft. I remember I wasn't mad about it, but I was definitely like, he about to die. like he coming into a league where like this is grown men. Like, you gotta remember, we still was dealing with
Ben Wallace was our starting center.
Ben Wallace was our starting center. Like that tells you the era of it, though. Ben Wallace was our starting center. It wasn't good. But no, man, it's Joe was a surprise. And sometimes, listen, I'm not sitting here saying I've agreed with all of these, but if Patrick Williams had finally panned out to be what everybody thought he was going to be mentally, nobody would be sitting here having a problem with P. Will.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we got problems is because you look at these guys and you go, well, the rest of the draft class has blown past him. And you can keep saying, but he's still younger than everybody else. I hear you. Kobe White took forever to develop. I hear you. Tyrese Halliburton was good as soon as he got on the court, and you saw it with the Kings, and you were like, how are they going to fit all these guards together? This don't make no sense.
That's funny. We'll see, bro. We'll see what happens, man.
We'll see, man. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love, man, and watch yourself.
You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube for Pat the Designer. This has been Locked On Bulls, and yeah, we out of here, y'all. Peace.
Peace.